7 layers you can put it in. I'm tempted to put in a few more, but I think 3 is kind of fine.
So for the design, you didn't actually have to hack around the cameras. You said if the camera moves left, then you multiply the camera's movement by the scroll rate of the object. Because I've tried something like that, and what usually happens is that your object will fly across the screen.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So I've been looking at how to actually do parallax scrolling.
Well, I'll tell you what, look, I'll show you the code. I just found a small bit of code, because at first it wasn't as straightforward as the Flixel framework that I used. But I mean, the code I've got here is incredibly simple. So I mean, I'll give you a copy of it, and you can see how they've implemented it. It's really easy. So yes.
The mechanic with getting out your ship.
Yes.
Do you use that more extensively in the game, or is it always just hop out and press the button?
I need to hop out. I was thinking of using it a little bit more extensively, but I realized I had to keep things extremely simple, because I realized there were actually a huge amount of complications that would come with something like that. One is, what happens when you run off the edge of a platform? Will you die? If you don't die, will the camera follow you? How would you get back up to your ship? Are you going to have a jetpack to get back to your ship, or is your ship going to have to follow you? So I decided to just set up invisible walls that would just pop up and just keep you narrowed there. The only reason I want you to get out of the ship is just to keep you extremely vulnerable at that one point when you get in. I was going to have like shooting mechanics, maybe in a sequel or something at some stage. But for now, I realized I had to try and strip down my design as much as I could. Yes.
You're doing this for your masters?
For commercial use and for my masters as well. Doing a practical research project.
It's not like the university club.
Oh no.
You're doing practical research using it.
Sorry?
You're doing practical research using it, but you incorporating your research into
exactly, and that's
using the
research is specifically
game
for the random procedural generation
rather than for the actual game.
No, not that for the actual game players.
And you started the IP with the IP before your
pretty much. Yeah, I was actually going to use another game, and then this one came out, and then I actually changed my whole research focus that I was going to do to focus entirely on random generation.
Regarding the control systems,
yes.
do you not feel that if one's playing on iPhone per se, like for me, for example, I got rather big thumbs.
Yeah.
So
sorry to hear that.
I'll feel that like my station will be blocked by my thumbs. Did you ever think of just keeping the ship centered and the map moves around your ship?
Well, it does for the most part. The ship doesn't really go much towards the edges. Only when you really reach the edge of the map, then it will have to do that at some point. But for the most part, it won't. But that's also what's nice at having relative controls as well. It's like if you can't see your ship anymore, you can quickly just like move your thumb away. Now, iPhone is a bit of a drawback of the iPhone initially, and that's another thing. I'm really hoping to be able to get iCade support into it, because I'm seeing it's definitely something I think I'd like to see become more popular and more widely supported.
We're in March now. The March Game Dev Community Group. I'm Dave. I'm some random dude standing in front of you guys telling you what's going to happen today. So yes, the agenda is quite cool today. I see there's lots of new faces. This is good. For those who are new, we have a Google group which is extremely long. I think it's SA Game Development
community.
It's extremely long. It's a Google group, so have a look, sign up, and you'll get notification of all this. We do the requests for content and so on a monthly basis. Well, Ernest does, because I'm too lazy. But yeah, so this is the agenda for this evening. It's going to cover a few minutes of news. Then we've got a couple talks. We've got a guy that we're getting called in over Skype for the Amaze Festival. We've got a talk on surviving the game jam. Anybody here was actually the very Alec was there. Nice. And we've got a couple demos happening, and then we just have like an open free-for-all session where if you're building something and want to show it off, that's your space. Get people to sit down, play your games. It's where you can get feedback, do some play testing, or you can just shoot the breeze and try an empty bomb. So yeah, that's pretty much what's going to happen. From a news point of view, from my side, because I'm a Microsoft brainwashed person, we're still running that 5 apps you get a phone for free. So if you build 5 Windows Phone apps, we'll give you a phone. What else are we doing that's cool?
Student phone app.
We're doing other cool stuff, but nothing relevant to here. Yes, what are the...
I think for those Windows apps, you must say that you're not allowed to submit an app which has a screenshot of a table that's like your content.
I would reject that. So it has to be something useful to you. Don't spam me. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, put it this way, we were churning out probably an app a day of non-random RSS, so non-RSS type spam. So building real apps that you use on a day-to-day basis. So they're pretty quick. And if you build 5, drop me a mail at drussell, drussell at microsoft.com, or get me through the blog, and I will send you a phone. That's simple. Other cool stuff. Anybody else got anything else cool that's happening? Nobody.
I did see on Microsoft's page there's a competition for games.
Dreambuild Play
Yeah.
has just started. So those of you who are interested in Dreambuild Play, please enter, look it up. It's a massive worldwide game dev competition. I know of a couple of people that are currently entering and building stuff. And I think the prize this year is a shared prize of $110,000 US. I think the winner gets about 60K, which is a fair amount of cash to play with.
240 odd.
Sorry?
I think it's about 240,000 rand.
Yeah, something like that. I'm not 100% sure, but it's lots of money for building a game and making cool stuff. They do have a division for Windows Phone as well as Xbox this year, so you guys can play around with whichever you prefer. Yeah, anybody else got news? Nobody.
It's like a 40.
Cool. That makes this very easy. So thank you very much, guys. We're going to get up. The first one we're going to start is the Amaze demo, and I'm going to run away and leave you guys in the capable hands of Kevin here, who will obviously not fix your computer. Yeah.
Well, if you hear it should be working.
Oh, don't tempt fate.
Specifically,
Yeah,
this doesn't work.
yeah, Kevin, you will not fix this computer. And that's me.
Okay, guys, we're going to be Skyping through to Thorsten in Berlin now, as soon as we get it working. Thorsten is the brains behind the Amaze Festival, which those of you on the group, the Google group, would have seen discussed. And we thought it would be best if he spoke about it and spoke about how this is geared towards indie game dev and what he's planning to do with it. He does this much better than me.
Hello?
Hi, Thorsten. We've got you speaking to a whole group of excited people wanting to learn more about Amaze.
Okay, thank you very much. Hi, Hanley. Good to have you here. Can you see me?
Yep, everyone can see you and hear you clearly.
Okay, great. Fantastic. Should I introduce myself or did you...
Introduce yourself and the project.
Okay. I'm Thorsten Wiedemann and I'm living in Berlin. I'm 40 years old and I'm running the festival. It's called Amaze. And Amaze is, we built up Amaze since 2008 and we're looking for the conversions of computer games and art. The festival we did 2010 in Berlin. It was the Amaze Interact Festival. Was also featured in South Africa. In The Verge from Buso TV, and it was featured by Pipa, and so the connection was that was the connection to South Africa to do the festival as well in South Africa. So Pipa invited me to come to South Africa to do the same festival or kind of the same festival in Johannesburg. And so I made the trip to Johannesburg my first time. It was in March 2011. I had an abstract in my hand and I met some people, Pipa, I met Crystal Doherty, I met the people from Banza, the people from Goethe Institute, and so it was kind of the beginning of talking about corporations and the goal to make an annual platform, the Amaze Festival, happened in Johannesburg, and the starting point is 2012. So the Amaze Festival is a festival not just about gaming, it's also about playing, and it's really like what is possible with playing. I mean, we also go forward to do some social critical things. We also do kind of fun things. So we have in our concept we have things like public gaming. We are working with artists together, with Donna Bukama, with Sebastian Quack, who is doing the You Go Festival, what is a street game festival, with Margarete Jahrmann. She is at the university in Zurich, and she's teaching game design there. And we have a conference where we also like to invite. I mean, first of all, it is a collaboration festival, and it's not just a showcase of European artists and game developers. I really want to make the festival happen in Johannesburg with the Johannesburg people and with South African people. And for this goal, I also connected up to Hanley, and I'm very, very happy that in 2012, she raises the first game design study curriculum at the university, at the Wits University, and so I think this is a good starting point, that we really make something happen in Johannesburg, talking about games, making games, and also, of course, indie games. For me, it's very important, these kind of development in the gaming world, because I'm not so much interested into the real industry, the game industry. I'm really more behind the idea. What is the medium? What is possible with the medium? And of course, it's also very content driven, what I'm expecting as a curator of the Amaze Festival. But otherwise, I'm open to everything what's going to happen in breaking rules, doing something new. I'm not looking just to the market. So we also, the Amaze Festival is also doing kind of small project in Berlin, and for example, we are doing game jams. We are always part since 3 years of the Global Game Jam, and we have a bunch of people together, somehow 55 people who make games, and it's always a nice experience for 48 hours to make I mean, it's always kind of not just making the games, it's always coming together and talking about games, talking about making games, and it's a really inspiring thing, and it's pretty hard, and for 3 years I'm always there for 48 hours, and it's crazy. I'm not a game designer, but I'm very interested in this, and I like this crowd, and I like the people, and I'm always very happy to organize something like that. As well, Amaze is doing in Berlin machinima screening. It's a night of machinima, we call it. So we have a curator who is creating some of the machinimas, and we also want to show something like that at the festival. I like to present workshops, also talk to Hanley about doing workshops, maybe with Danny Day. I try to get him involved into the whole thing, and that we really can make a proper workshop going on game design and teaching what is possible. And even, I mean, it's also very interesting for indie game designer to make it happen, the self-publishing thing, and going without publishing, and what is all over the world happening. And of course, we do a party. We do a big party. I invite some nice artists who are doing DJing and music. A lot of things are game related. So of course, chiptune music is very important. It's also something I like to bring in. I also yesterday I talked with Hanley pretty long on Skype, or it was 2 days ago, and we were thinking, we're talking about what is possible, how we can get the indie gaming developer crowd from Johannesburg or from South Africa into the whole concept of Amaze. And so because I'm preparing right now Amazing Indie Connect. It's a festival end of April in Berlin. We have an award and we have a conference all about just indie games. So I'm totally into this whole thing, and we like to make a platform happen for the European indie games. But for this, I really like to invite you to make it happen, because I'm sure there are a lot of more games than I know already in South Africa, and probably not published, but I really like to know more about. And so I talked to Hanley that it's possible that we make, because we have an exhibition, and to show really what's going on, what is the English game scene doing all the time, and maybe to show the games, to show indie games at the exhibition as well. So it's not just in the corner, and this is the arcade corner. We really make a proper exhibition that everything is well presented. And of course, I like to invite the developers that they present their games and stay there, and people can talk to them and maybe learn something or whatever, inspire people. And this is something what is very important. This is of course one part of the festival. It's the exhibition part, and indie games has to be there. Indie games have to be there, definitely. Then we talked about doing a game jam. I don't know if it's necessary that we do a 48 hours game jam, but probably we can do a game jam for about 24 hours. What do you mean, Hanley? Possible? And
it is possible. We can look into that as we go, but there will definitely be a maze-related game jam, and Alec is nodding at me excitedly as I speak.
No, really to create something. I mean, it's all about moments, to get people together. I don't know if you have a really a platform. Probably you have these indie game developer meetups, and this is very important. And of course, you are part of the Global Game Jam. I see it every year, and probably the Amaze Festival could be also a kind of a platform for indie game designers to contribute and to participate at the festival. Even to have a kind of a platform for promotion, for whatever. I mean, it's always just good to have something who are trying to make the things that we can spread it through the world, whatever. Sorry for my English. And the game jam will happen probably the weekend before the festival. The festival is scheduled on 29th of August to the 2nd of September. And I think it's the weekend, I think it's 25th of August or something like that. And this is the weekend before the festival, and I really like to invite you all to participate at the Game Jam. Hanley will organize it, right?
Yes.
And I don't know, we can talk about the topic. You can choose a topic, and then during the festival, of course, there we have a slot. We will show of course, we show indie games which are developed already in South Africa, but we also like to give the prototypes or the games of the game jam some space, and we also want to have them in the exhibition. And for me, it's very important that all these things, that the game jam games are also presented. So maybe we can make kind of a platform during the conference when we are talking about weird media art stuff and something like that. We also can put for these guys who are doing some kind of theory stuff, we can show them something practical, and then we can talk about and make kind of a speed presentation of each game, what was the difficulties, how to team up, and then to find the right way to work together, and something like that, and the idea, how the idea develops. And what else? Yeah, of course, probably I said it already, we want to present workshops, and also during the workshops at the conference, I also want to have a kind of game panel where it's just about game designing and aesthetics and innovation in game design and something like that. I have to talk more about this panel, but probably you also have some ideas. I'm pretty open for this. I mean, it's the first festival, and this festival should happen more often. So we have, for me, the idea of the festival is to really collaborate, to make something happen together, to cooperate, and then we can really do it for the next 20 years. And yeah, and of course Pippa Chabalala is also invited to hold a lecture. Probably you know her, and Hanley is also invited to give a lecture and some of the bits. And if anybody has an idea to talk and to say something, wants to say something to the people in the form of a lecture, probably 20 minutes, 25 minutes with Q&A, always welcome. I mean, we still have some slots, and I'm very happy to get you involved. So I think I stopped talking now.
Right, so Thorsten, where are we at the moment? This is still a call for participation. People should be getting ideas to you for lectures, for workshops, for games that they want to show. Is that?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Perfect.
Definitely for the exhibition to show, definitely, and then we for the lecture. I mean, we don't have so much time for the lecture, so if there, I don't know how many people now in the room. When we have 30 lectures, this is not working. But we have over the next years we have more time to let everybody the chance to talk about the experience and the topics that they want to talk about. Of course, totally for me it's very important to participation for this festival, and also to get indie games and the whole indie games philosophy involved.
Thorsten, how can we get hold of you? Could you give us the address for the call in Johannesburg, call in Joburg?
Calling Joburg? Yes, I can. I mean, everything you can write to, let me see, to my email address. It's Amaze, Carson at Amaze. The call, I have the call somewhere. If you have any questions, please ask me if it's possible. Okay, just recording. Okay, yeah. So this is the link for the call. So even when somebody knows some musicians or sound designers, also welcome, because or who are doing kind of visuals, whatever. I mean, it's not just about game design. It's all about game. What is game related and play related. And for me, the festival is kind of a playful, experimental, visionary media art festival.
Fantastic, thank you so much. Does anyone have any questions for Thorsten? Yes?
I just asked quickly about media. How would media get hold of it? Like, if we wanted to be represented at the event, like, if we wanted to cover the event?
Media coverage. If there are local gaming websites who want to cover the event, how do they get hold of you?
I mean, this is something I didn't start with the PR right now. So if anybody has any ideas and even some websites or blogs or communities, I'm just researching right now and starting researching with my volunteer and help me in this way. I mean, even Pippa Chabalala trying to make it happen over Birch and to send the call out. I have the possibility, I will be in Johannesburg mid of June, and it would be also cool to meet you, because then I'm from mid of June till end of August, I will be in Johannesburg. It would be great to meet you all and just to talk. I mean, this is also enough time to create something together.
Perfect.
But for now, I really don't have these kind of press and PR things in my mind right now. But if you have an idea, please.
Anything else, guys?
So apart from just like exhibiting games and stuff, I mean, it's any sort of things that are game related.
Yes.
It's like gaming related artwork, game mechanisms. This is the broad spectrum. Anything
Games
slightly related to gaming that can be submitted to.
Yes. Mike was asking if it's not just games that can be submitted, but it is anything relating to games. So art about games.
Yeah, like I said, art, music styles.
Styles, anything like that can be submitted. Yes.
Yes.
Great. Thank you. Anything else?
Do you want the submission right now? I'm from a company 8-bit Octopus. We do 3D animation for broadcast, so it's actually the first time here. So we're a local game creation company for content.
Awesome. So we'll
HBO.org.
see if we can at least show Thorsten who you all are, what he's
Hello.
doing.
Wow. Hey, hello.
We'll get you the details and the address for you to be able to get hold for a submission. Thorsten, I think that's about it from your That's about it from our side. Thank you so much for making the time and speaking to everybody about this.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for having me. And let's go for it for the Amaze Festival, for the Amaze Interact Festival, end of August. I'm really looking forward to meet you. Cool. Thank you, Handy.
There's the URL. We just look that up.
To be able to run your app on any kind of platform, you need to be and then you have to generate signing certificate requests and then submit to them the keys and then signing keys. That will be the first
Trust me to have to interrupt the conversations of the game design course. Thanks, guys. Basically, I'm presenting a talk on surviving a game jam. For those of you that don't know, game jam is a quick competition, well, not really competition, quick period of time over which a game is created. They're usually 48 hours. They come in much quicker formats, going down to 48-minute game jam. So I'm going to give a talk basically on the 48-hour one. The principles I talk about here can be applied to the smaller formats, but use logic, and most of this is logic anyway. So. Okay. So an overview of the presentation is I'm going to quickly talk about pre-jam preparation, also about idea generation, picking your teams, and then I'm going to talk about getting stuff done quickly. Also then there's the split and polish, which is basically adding the fluff, and then I'm going to give 3 case studies, one where we learned a very hard lesson in game jam, and 2 where they went a lot better, let's just say that. Pre-jam prep. So with game jams, you've got to know what the jam is about. So there's, for example, global game jam. The rules of that are not as strict as something called LD, in the sense that you can create digital and non-digital games. You can work in teams. Where with LD you can't work in teams. You have to create all content from art, music and code within the 48 hours. That also kind of falls into constraints, but the main difference between constraints and rules is constraints like kind of constrain what you're allowed to use. So, for example, maybe Microsoft decides to host a Microsoft development game jam, which would you have to use a Microsoft product such as X and A. You have to develop for Xbox. That's more of a constraint. So be familiar with that. Also, be familiar with your tools. The way you do that is you practice. So week before, make a quick game. It doesn't need to be a full 48-hour game because not everyone can devote that kind of time to develop it. So practice. Also, a very good way of becoming familiar with your tools is to teach. Before the last Global Game Jam, I got one of my friends and taught him how to use Unity, or basically 2-hour crash course on Unity. And it actually also ended up in there being an extra person at the game jam, so that's also the added benefit to teaching. Why should you be familiar with all these things? Time is short. You've got 48 hours. You don't want to stuff up too badly in that time and waste 6 hours debugging something basic. You don't want to do things in a stupid way doing things that could take an hour in 10. So get familiar with that kind of stuff. Also, it allows you to become aware of one's limitations. You're not going to make Gears of War in 48 hours. So And some people have those kind of goals. So, yeah. Now with idea generation, there's quite a simple rule. It's for scope. It's keep it simple, stupid. Yeah, simple is good. It allows you to finish it quickly. Basic rule of thumb is in a 48-hour game jam, you should be able to implement the mechanic in less than 6 hours. Give you time to fix all the rubbish that's going on and to add the fluff and to make it actually fun and to tweak and to balance. All that stuff takes time. Also then, you also have to make sure that your basic mechanic is simple and fun, which is much better than a complex and lame game. What I've said to the game design students is, if you throw shit at shit, it's still shit. So the basic mechanic still has to be fun. Adding fluff won't make it fun if it's not fun to begin with. Also, clarity. So if you can if you can't communicate your ideas during a game jam, how's anyone going to be able to implement it? It's a basic thing. And also, a very good thing is to listen. A lot of people don't listen well enough. They've got their own idea in their head. It's better than everyone else's. They don't give a shit about what anyone else has to say. So listen, and also your idea might be bad. Listen to criticism, but we'll get onto criticism just now. Also, there's a requirement. What do you have, and what do you need? Do you need 30,000 artists and a coding army to make this game work in 48 hours? Then it's probably not feasible. Look at what you have, look at what you need. And then once again, keep it simple, stupid. Picking your teams comes back down to what do you need, what do you have, artists, musicians, what's going to make your game good, what can you afford to do in the time that you have. And also, with your team, it doesn't help to have, there are certain people that are sort of stuck in their ways, like I'm a Unity developer, someone else is an XNA developer, someone else is a game maker developer. It doesn't help to try collaborate and then be like, I'm doing this in this thing, so you better be on board with that. You guys need to choose your team based on that. Also, what you've got to watch out for is naysayers. But naysayers that are being realistic are a good thing because they keep you in track. But naysayers that are just being negative for the sake of being negative, they can't offer any positive, constructive stuff. It's a stuff they will kill the project. They'll kill the inspiration. Also, non-committals, unless you have space for them in your team. Your core team can't be non-committals. These are people that say, oh, awesome, I'm so stoked, and then they're here for 3 hours out of the 48. It's very difficult to make a game with your core team as non-committals. Also, you need to look at indecisives. These people, basically, they're negative, but they won't say, listen, I don't like the game. They'll be like, oh, you know, whatever. They won't give you any criticism about it, but you can see that they're not like stoked for it. This can also, it's crippling, because they'll be like, oh, I really have to implement this now. It doesn't, they don't have that inspiration to actually work. Okay, getting shit done quickly. The reason you chose a basic mechanic is so that you can implement it quickly. By implementing it quickly, you can get feedback. Is the game balanced? Does the mechanic work, right? Reflect on this feedback. I said earlier about criticism, I was talking earlier about criticism. Some people will criticize just to criticize. They'll just be negative. They'll just say, we don't like the name of your game, and they won't give you an alternative. They will just criticize for criticize. So reflect on the criticism, and then repeat the process. So it's an iterative process. Just by repeating, it's just tweaking, and yeah. So, and also very important is always leave time for submission. There's upload times. global game jam, everyone's submitting at the same time, it's going to take time. So consider the network traffic. Some people make games that are hundreds of megs big. Uploading that can be a problem if the network is tied up. Also, consider write-up time. This is the time you take to market your game on the Game Jam website. Face it, you're not going to play a game that sounds crappy on the website. You're not. You basically just need to consider that. That's a very important part of the game development process. Okay, split and polish. Do this when you're done. It basically improves the feel of the game. I said tweak variables for fine-tuning. That's more part of the actual game development process, but you can add in extra variables. If you can add in extra variables that you can tweak, or if you're adding in other stuff that needs tweaking, then obviously you're going to have to tweak them. Also, I don't really consider gameplay menus like an important part of the game. Most of my game jam things are click to continue, click, cool, with the instructions obviously. And then lastly, add an ice course, because people want to see that kind of stuff. But that's only if you have time. Cool. First case study is a game called Ligophobia that my friend Mitchell and I developed in Game Jam 2011. In 48 hours, we wanted to make a survival FPS with turrets, different weapons, gameplay affected by the amount of light, and enemies that track the player. It's not that hard, but it was too hard for us then because we weren't prepared. Yeah, basically we also added the fluff before perfecting the mechanic. We had motion blur when you ran into the darkness. We had like cool image effects, but the game itself was crap. So the result was disappointment. We had a game where you could kind of shoot the enemies. The attacking enemies could kind of run into you. And yeah. So yeah, consider that. Then for LD22, which is that 48-hour game dev by yourself jam, I decided I was going to make a top-down shooter, simple sort of thing, with primitive graphics, so cubes and spheres and that kind of thing. Nice particle effects because that's really relatively easy to do. I then did also randomly generated weapons. I did randomly generated aliens, a whole bunch of power type things. I kept it simple. I had 16 hours to do what I had to do, and I did more than what I expected. So for me, it was a win because I overdid what I was planning to do. Okay, the next global game jam game that Mitchell and I did was something called Basketball of the Gods. We managed to make an FPS that was based on a throwing mechanic with charging up how fast you're going to throw the ball, which was nice because Unity handled all the physics, so the implementation was relatively simple. Yeah, and the basic mechanic was shoot hoops or die. The simple mechanic resulted in polished graphics and fluff, and the result for me was kind of epic. So, and that's being modest. Most important thing, people work differently. I, for one, need my sleep, right? A tired mind is a slow mind. So you work for 48 hours straight, chances are near the end you're going to tweak something and your brain is just going to tweak as well. And you're not going to be able to fix what you've stuffed up. So get sleep. The amount of sleep you need is dependent on you. So just look at that. And so what do you guys think? Are there any things with game jams that have missed out? And also coming soon, that needs to be confirmed, but the last I heard was that we were going to have LD23 from the 20th to the 23rd of April here in this very room. And yeah, cool. For more information, you can check that link, and I will send this presentation to the Google group. Any feedback, question? Yes?
Just commentary on naysayers. We find them generally in life.
Yeah.
I always find a very good definition of somebody who's trying to criticize constructively as being somebody who has an alternative.
Yeah.
If you criticize why something is bad, give me an alternative. Explain what could be done to make it better. Otherwise, you're not really being constructive.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what I meant by naysayers. Is someone that's just there's no alternative. Yes, what?
If you develop something that's really awesome, financially awesome,
yes,
who owns the rights to this?
With Unity. With Global Game Jam, it depends on the type of game jam. With Global Game Jam, as far as I know, everything that is done in Global Game Jam is Creative Commons. With Ludum, I'm going to call it Dare because that's the way it's meant to be said. With Ludum Dare, you just need to double check that. But as far as I know, with Ludum Dare, you own the rights to the stuff you make. That comes down to getting prepped with the rules and stuff like that.
Sorry, I've never been to a game jam before.
Yeah.
Just have a question. Does everyone bring their PCs like to the same venue and set up and develop it like right there?
Yeah.
Together. Okay.
Yeah. And what happens with like Global Game Jam is on Friday night we meet up. There's a keynote presented by usually famous people. The last one was Brenda Brathwaite, I think her name. Brenda Brathwaite and John Romero, the guy that was one of the guys that helped invent the FPS genre. Yeah, so there's that. Then what happens is there's a idea talk in like a massive group. So you go around and you talk about the ideas and stuff like that. And what I forgot to mention is there's also a theme that's announced just before talking about your ideas. So you talk about your ideas, then some people say, okay, that guy sounds cool, let me go speak to him. Then you guys make a solid idea, then everyone goes home and sleeps. Saturday morning about 9 o'clock, everyone walks up, devs till 11 at night, goes home and sleeps. Then the next day, devs from 9 till about 3, submit. Then what happens is we play the games and we criticize each other and have fun.
Within the time frame of 48 hours, how do you organize what's going to be produced when? How does the process of creation not get muddled up?
That's why you have to focus on the basic. The basic mechanic is basically, it's the first priority. Getting that done is the first priority. If you've got artists, you know what you discuss. That first night you discuss what needs to be done. So artists, you say, okay, artists, I need this texture, I need this model, go. And they can do that. And you basically make the game, if you're the developer, you make the game so that it's easy to integrate the art as it comes in. So when you prototype it looks basically spheres and cubes and stuff like that if you're making a 3D game. So you implement your basic mechanic while the artists are doing the art, and you iterate and you add in stuff as it comes in. Does that answer? Yeah.
Alright, I did know with the game jams that you need to have access to the source code. What's the rule on previously owned source? So let's say I have my library of math functions that I use very often.
Yeah.
Can I bring those with me?
Depends on the game jam. With Ludum Dare, you have to declare the engine code or the code of math functions beforehand and make them publicly available for people to see before the game jam, so they can assess whether you've done too much. It's basically it would be peer reviewed your code. So you've got your maths functions, you submit it to Ludum Dare a week beforehand, before the jam, and you're like, cool, this is what I'm going to be using, is it cool? And then a whole bunch of guys give feedback and they say, no, or they say yes. But it all depends on the type of game jam.
Also, like you said, John Romero just gave the keynote speech. Do you mean John Romero actually came here?
No. It's happening in many locations all over the world, so it couldn't be like that. It's like a YouTube video type thing.
Well, it could, but you'd have to be very lucky to actually have them come
or
here.
they'd have to cut them up into little pieces, and then you won't be that easy.
It would be that interesting to
anyone else?
listen to.
Any further questions?
Do you have any comments on the version control between group members?
Yeah.
We struggled quite a bit. We started a Git server, we started pushing pulling, it's chaos to learn. And we ended up like almost thinking about using a flash drive. And then we started using Dropbox.
Version control is something you're going to have to deal with. It's part of your pre-jam preparation. What we did with Unity.
Experiences in the previous ones?
Well, the first one, which was a disaster, it was literally, we had Lygophobia 1, Lygophobia 2, Lygophobia WTF, Lygophobia Person, Lygophobia pre-final. It was like that. But with Basketball of the Gods, what we did is we set up a Unity server, asset server, which is built in, and it worked fairly well, assuming Mitchell and I were working on the exact same thing at the same time. But yeah, it very much depends on the type. Yeah. Dave?
Yeah. When you have made your game, are people like taking notice of the results? Do you get approaches from anyone, or do you have to source it yourself? Take your game.
You kind of, yeah. It's kind of the amount of effort you put in than what you get out. So if you write a really nice thing, if you make a good game and you write a really nice write-up on it, you put it on the website, you get lots of reads, you get lots of visits. Also comes with the experience. I mean, there's been, I think, there's been 22 LDs, right? And I entered my first one, and I came 200 and something out of 700, right? That sounds cuck, but there's been 22 of them, and there's people that have been practicing. So it's the amount of effort you put in. But there's also things that you need to consider. So with LD, if you're going to submit a game, try and make it that it can be run on the web, so that it's easy to access. Because, like, for example, with Unity, you can compile to Windows or you can compile to web, and then the web works in Mac and it works in Windows. So not in Linux, unfortunately, but Mac and Windows. So then it's open to a whole bunch of people. You basically need to consider the scope of the people that you're going to be addressing. Yeah, let me take you first.
What about music and audio in general? How do you bring that in? Are you allowed to bring that in? But if not, how do you make it?
Depends, right? Make sure you don't bring anything copyrighted.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah. And with LD, you have to create it during 48 hours. So you create it using Guitar Pro, you output MIDI files, or if you're lucky, you've got a sound recording person there, and he will record all the sound for you, and it's just place all the sounds and put them into the game. So yeah, it just depends on the jam. Yeah. Thanks,
Right, so you mentioned the Unity asset server.
Yeah.
I know those licenses are quite expensive, but I do remember reading somewhere that Unity does give out temporal licenses during the game jams.
Yeah.
Does this happen every game jam?
Basically every global game jam does it. Ludum Dare, sorry, my mistake. Ludum Dare, you're working by yourself basically. So that being said, there is a relaxed version of Ludum Dare that runs at the same time, where you can work as teams, you can bring in content, and it's not judged as serious. It's almost like as a criminal offense if you offend one of the rules for the competition. But the game jam is It's true. So yeah, it depends. It depends on what Unity's prepared to do, but we could, like, people can always email and say, hey, Little Diary is happening. Can you give a weekend license? Any further?
Are most game jams global? Because surely there's certain advantages to having like local game jams, etc.
Most of the ones that are organized are global. Most of the ones I've come across, I've only really dealt with Little Diary and Global Game Jam, and they with the last Global Game Jam, there are over 10,000 developers across the world and 2,200 games were made. And the last Little Diary, there was 880 or something games that were made across the world. So I'm always keen to organize a local game jam, but yeah, we just need to find locations and stuff like that.
But
sorry. Yeah.
But what's the point of having it global? Is there any interaction apart from the outcome competitiveness at the end of the creation of the game? Because surely it's pretty much isolated development anyway until the final product is produced.
Well, there's more games. That's basically it. And then you can get people like John Romero to take notice. Then you can get cool sponsorship for a weekend of, these tools that you use like Unity Pro version or Game Salad or something like that. It all depends. Yeah, that's basically, I think, the reason why it's done like that. And also it's cool. If you think about it, you go and you're like, cool, I wonder what they're doing in Denmark. Blam. They've done this over that weekend.
How do you know that the people in Denmark didn't cheat?
It's on it. The whole thing was a game jam. And if they make Gears of War, you can see something's wrong. So if they've been working for months and months on the thing, you can see. You can see what is made in 48 hours and what's made in weeks and weeks and weeks of development. I think I'm going to take one more question because I think we should move things along. Does anyone have anything pressing? Okay, so now no one.
Hi everybody, my name is Michael. This is my third presentation I'm doing here. My company name that I was previously operating under was called Synthetic Space, but just let you know, I've just recently decided to change it to Retro Future. I originally used it as a DJ name, and then I started to see that it would actually work really well for an animation and design company I was starting up. And I thought it would actually be nice to incorporate everything that I was doing under the Retro Future name, and also I found that it was much more descriptive of the game style that I generally tend to focus on. So yes, this is currently what my current logo looks like, and hopefully hopefully something will become something a bit more well-known and more profitable as time goes on. But yeah, one step at a time. I've yet to actually release anything, and that's what I'm actually here to talk to you about. Some of you may have already seen my previous presentation I've done for the first iteration of my game that I'm currently presenting called ZX. I just want to do this as basically an update, and also I'm going to be presenting it as if I haven't presented it before, seeing as I'm sure at least like 70% of you weren't here for the last presentation. Okay, just to give you a bit of a basic outline on how the game works, and just to jump into a snapshot of it. This is a screenshot of the game. I will actually be showing gameplay footage just to give you an outline first. It's a multi-directional 8-way scrolling shooter. It's basically sort of like a cross between a space shoot 'em up and a dungeon explorer kind of game, if that actually makes any sort of sense. I've pretty much done almost everything on it except for the music. I've done art, programming, and general game design. Now, originally I don't have a programming background. I'm currently utilizing GameMaker, and for any of you who aren't programmers, who are just starting out, who come from a design background, don't let any programming snobs go and denigrate GameMaker and say it's for kids. It's really one of the best ways you can actually get to get people who are from a design background to start getting into building games. And whilst there are obviously many more powerful programming languages and environments to utilize, it's definitely the best sort of thing to get started into. I wasn't actually hoping to get a Unity build of this, because I wanted to sort of push about a bit more performance, due to the fact that I've got a shitload of sprites swarming around the screen at any one time. But finding that, I decided I'd rather actually initially just stick with my GameMaker build instead of trying to go and build everything from the ground up, and also seeing how to use Unity. So I was overhearing someone talking about a spare time Unity course, so I'll happily go and try and take it up. Plus, on top of it, licensing fees. I'm actually hoping to get into what's called GameMaker Studio, which is probably going to be released the first quarter of this year, which will have the ability to export to Android and to iOS, which are the primary platforms that I want to put this onto. Okay, moving on. Just to give you a bit more background into the game over here, I'd like to show you firstly a bit of the design influences and gameplay styles behind the games, as well as the aesthetic decisions that I made behind it. So let's jump forward. This is a snapshot of a game called Hero Core, 2010, released by Daniel Remar. Looks incredibly basic and simple, but I actually found one of the more interesting and compelling indie games that atmosphere you could actually generate utilizing such a ridiculously minimalist aesthetic. And basically, the difference between his and mine is that his is what you call a flick screen game, whereas you have the entrances. These are the entrances and exits of the room. Nothing scrolls; it just basically flicks from one screen to the next. Whereas in my game, I decided I wanted to implement a bit of scrolling so that I could incorporate parallax, because that's the one thing I've always found that even with simple games can give you a great deal of depth. Another game which I derived a little bit more aesthetically from gameplay-wise was called Gamma Brothers by Pixel Jam. Definitely one of my favorite developers. They've done quite a few releases on the Adult Swim channel with a lot of really crazy and daft sort of Atari style games that they create. And then one thing that also been more directly influential on the gameplay choice was a 1993 game by Treasure called Gunstar Heroes. I initially utilized this. Obviously now this is a running gun game, but I decided to implement the weapon system, which was utilizing two basic weapon types, primary and secondary, that when combined create a tertiary weapon type. So I've always really, this is always like a gameplay mechanic that I've always found fascinating, as opposed to just a set number of weapons, was the combination of weapons that I just felt gave you a nice freedom of gameplay styles. Now, the design style that I've gone for here was, and also the name of the game, was derived from the ZX Spectrum computer. Now, I didn't own one of these. I owned a Commodore 64, unfortunately. I would obviously much rather prefer one of these. Now, I was using ZX as just as like a working title of the game. Didn't really know what else to call it, but I found the name quite catchy and I could make a nice logo of it, so I decided to stick with it. I basically decided to utilize the color palette of the ZX Spectrum, which here was basically just 15 colors, lights and dark versions of primary and secondary colors. Just jump forward and show you like a color mix chart and what you could kind of get from that. Now it's quite garish, but it's extremely bold. Whereas the Commodore 64 palette is a much more hideously, grotesquely, garishly muted vomit color. This is rubbish. Now look at, I mean, this is what I primarily played with as a child, but it's I can't say I was particularly enamored of using this rather muted horror color scheme. Now, the game style, whilst I was using the ZX Spectrum's color scheme, I decided to obviously work on the iPhone, because I'm trying, my primary development platform is iPhone. I decided to utilize, obviously, the iPhone's, actually an iPhone 3's resolution, which was approximately 480 by 320, which I just scaled up to twice the size, so that I could push a little bit more performance out instead of having a full-res retina display screen trying to show pixel graphics. I thought just make them their original size and just scale them up. So yes, another thing that I've different from the Spectrum style games that often, I should have got a screenshot of this, many of their games were usually like black backdrop based games that usually had like colored sprites on top of it. I decided to work invertedly with that. Mainly because using silhouette graphics is obviously easier for a lone artist to go and draw and animate, and also I like the look of it. But then I found I could actually get a lot more variety of looks and feels between stages with like large amounts of color in the backdrops, as opposed to the colors being on the individual sprites themselves. Now, if I can jump forward and show you back into another thing that I also did that the Spectrum obviously couldn't do, because I was initially trying to be very purist and use only the solid colors and use a type of shading style which was known as dithering, which is like, for those who are unfamiliar, it was like using almost like a checkered pattern, various kinds of checkered dot matrix style patterns. Now, they hadn't worked on a ZX Spectrum with very jerky scrolling, but with the smoother PC scrolling, the dithering effects when moving create like a really hideous flicker. So it's only really good for static graph or static graphics. I also decided to just implement gradients as well, and I realized that even though I want to sort of give myself a nice a limited design scope, I did want to at least sort of be able to stretch it with a few like modern production techniques of sprite rotations, gradients. I always tended to use a bit of lighting, but I thought just rather keep away from it and just stick to the original colors. Now, I'd like to also just quickly show you the kind of control scheme I want to have implemented. So currently now this is just PC, which with the gamepad and keyboard support, but now it's very easy to say I want to make an iPhone game and then not actually have a proper control scheme set up. And I've played many a really, really hideous control scheme on an iPhone. Now, basically the way I would work the touchscreen, it's going to be basically a dual analog style control, where the left half of the screen will be dedicated to movement, and the right hand to firing and weapon systems. The movement will be relative based, meaning that as opposed to having a specific area where one would control, I'm going to be working relatively that wherever you press, it's initially 0 point, and where you pull out will be direction. Because often I found you have large dead zones when you're trying to like emulate analog and digital controls. And this I've seen implemented time and time again extremely successfully, and it's always been my favorite control system for this style of game. So as you can see there, I would have the drag for direction, touch for the center, and just tapping for the player to exit the ship. On the right-hand side of the screen, I would do a similar thing for firing, whereas your ship would be able to fire left and right, which would be a similar thing. Even games that have this sort of direction or control tend to have emulated buttons at the bottom, and that I also tend to find you always have to like sort of like say, oh shit, where are the buttons?
You tapped the wrong thing.
And it's terrible. I want to use it that as with dual sticks, where a direction that you push in sets the direction that you're firing, and flicking up and down will cycle up and down between your weapon systems, and then tapping in the center will release the melee attack. Okay, now if I can just quickly, I'm going to quickly run a demo for you, and I'll give you a bit of an overview on how the gameplay works. Each of the levels that you go to, if it's like going into the first one, each one will have its own specific color theme. If I go into this, this is the hub for the first world. Each world has got like a separate little portal clusters. Now you can't actually go into any of these yet. So they don't. None of them actually are operating. So none of them have power. What one initially has to do is land one ship. Get out the ship. Get back in, collect the power force so that your charge is full. Now you can power up any one of these here, but you can only power up one at a time. So let's say if I take this first one here, I land here, charge it up, now it's charged up, I can get out, and now I've got this portal activated. But now I can't activate any of the other portals until I've gone and completed this. So we can jump onto one of these. Now, to show you how the weapon system works, as you can see, one would fire left, one would fire right. And this is the basic Vulcan that we're at. If you see on the top left, you'll just see that I've only got a primary weapon activated. If I switch between weapons, like I'll just have a square, bounce a square shot, my second weapon, and then home. For some reason, it doesn't seem to be working. Oh, there we go. Okay. Now that's your initial weapon style. I'm going to cheat a little bit here and add a secondary weapon system to it. Don't worry, I've got infinite health on. I learned from last time. So now obviously I have a weapon that's twice as powerful. And now if you see, with the secondary weapon being the Vulcan shot, if I mix it with the spread shot, I now have a fast firing, low angle spread shot. And two-way missile shots. I can, for instance, think if I use the spread shot as my secondary weapon, I'll have a partial homing which unfortunately, which is kind of part of my research project at WITS, is to have an infinite mode, which will feature random procedural generation of the stages. Now, the stages that I built then, I haven't actually put actually a massive amount of thought into each of their designs, and specifically so because I wanted to be able to have a random algorithm, be able to make something that looks as good and is as playable. So I wanted to be able to make whatever I designed to be as random as possible, provided that it can be completed and you don't teleport into like an enclosed space and can't get out. But so I'm hoping to use a type of algorithm called cellular automata, which I've seen is particularly good for random cave generation. But that is still something I'm hoping to be able to implement at some point when, after I have the single player campaign completed, I would like to be able to get some help to get the random level generation completed, and hopefully be able to add as downloadable, extra downloadable content for the game as soon as I can get that completed. Now, as you can see, like I've got the main mechanics of the game finished. The main thing is now is to obviously build the rest of the content, and once the content is built now, is to try and see how to actually get that onto the iOS, onto the App Store, which is something I'm still quite new to. So that's still going to be quite interesting to do. I might want to get it onto PC at some point, but I do think that the App Store is probably going to be a better bet at the moment. Now, one last thing I wanted to mention though, regarding game stories, is that this is actually the one thing I've actually focused the least on. I usually go and start with design first, and then go and try to crowbar a story into it. Now, I've been kind of wondering with this whether this can actually lead to something interesting, or whether it's something that's just going to be tapped on that the player just goes and says, yeah, the Scythians are attacking the so-and-so, and skip, which I often do with these kinds of games. So if either I'm going to totally forego any pretense of a story and just have a game such as this, or I'm going to try to see how one can weave in a very minimalist story that's much more integral to a game like this than just having large splash screens of rambling text that are really of no consequence to the game. So that's one of the major aspects that I'm still going to be looking into this thing. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm going to stick around later. So if anyone wants to do a bit of play testing on the game there, is keen, then please by all means come and speak to me later. And yeah, and please, if something's really not working for you, if you think something is really not obvious or shit, I mean that's what I actually need to hear. Not like wow, awesomeness, great, that's thanks. If anything, extremely presumptuous, but I think it's from the criticism that I actually really need. So if you do find something in there that doesn't rub you up the wrong way, then please let me know. I will be here afterwards. So yes, hopefully I'll be able to speak to you guys and give you further updates as the project progresses. Any questions? Yes.
With the making it for iPhone.
Yeah.
On using GameMaker.
Yes.
So to release something for another platform like Android, what would your estimation be on difficulty for that?
Difficulty in converting it to that platform?
Yeah.
It depends. I initially want to be quite narrow with Android because obviously now Android's got a lot more devices, so there can be a huge amount more conflicts. Now, I'm initially just going to try and test it on reasonably high-end device tablets like my Motorola Zoom or anything that friends of mine own, like an HTC or a Galaxy or Samsung, and I will specifically advertise saying this: purchase at your own risk, is only really optimized for these things, and then just to get an initial release out, and then take. But my main focus is for iOS at the moment. But I don't want to ignore Android. Yeah.
With the iOS in South Africa, the marketplace giving a lot of trouble. Are you targeting South Africa as a release point, or are you just going to go on the American market store?
Well, I'll have to go American market because I mean we don't have any game. We've got virtually no games in South Africa. It's kind of silly to try and do that. I learned much to my horror when I looked at it like, okay, yeah, entertainment, where are the fucking games? And then, when I read online, I almost threw my phone out the window. But luckily, as I'm sure many of you are now living in Washington, D.C., in McDonald's. So yes.
A question just about the design.
Yes.
I noticed when we were playing the game, they looked like 3 levels of parallax.
Yes.
So there was the foreground, the middle ground, and the background.
Yes.
How did you pull that off technically, just from programming?
Hold on. That was reasonably simple. The first way I ever implemented when I used a game called Flixel, the level building stuff had pretty much automatic parallax. This one, there was a small script that someone had already developed, where I think it was, you could basically see, you basically have built-in scroll rates that are set in there. And I can just say scroll at 0.